So here you are, you've come looking for the best tire dressing. Now what exactly is the best? Well, that's entirely up to you, as it will be determined based on what you consider the best of anything. It's what I call the winning combination, the pros and cons. What I'm going to be discussing today is introducing you to what I consider one of the best. Chemical Guys VRP dressing. It is good for both interior and exterior use. Actually, I've done quite a bit of research on this particular product to try to understand the nature of the beast. Dressing as a general term, which includes tires, exterior trim, interior materials, leather, vinyl, rubber, hence VRP, vinyl, rubber, plastic. So this is suitable for all uses. It is a water-based dressing, and if you've watched my other videos, you know that I am a big fan of water-based dressings. Before we go any further, I need to start with the basics, and that is the tires themselves. Then I will introduce the product, I will get into the specifics of it, water-based, the chemical formulations, application, applicators. So we're going to work ourselves down that rabbit hole, and you can stay tuned in for as long as you want to learn. And that is the critical part of my videos, is learning. But you can actually take away something from this moment and apply it to your world. What we need to start with is some basics. And now I personally and professionally use the Chemical Guys VRP as a tire dressing only. If you've watched my other videos, you know that I'm not a huge fan of dressing up the interiors so they're all shiny, glossy, and gooey. I'm just not a big fan. So I reserve my dressings, whether it's the Hyper Dressing by Meguiar's or the Chemical Guys VRP dressing, for tires. So tires, that's what I want to address today. Now, what you need to understand about tires, like everything else in this world, they are not all created equal. The actual tire itself will be as big of a determinant or factor as the dressing that you choose, meaning how glossy it will look when it's done, how dull it may look when it's done, how long it will last. All those factors will be largely determined by the actual tire itself. And so that's what's frustrating, is that you may actually get one of the products that I recommend or a buddy recommends, and you apply it to your sidewall, and you are not able to produce the same results that was suggested by either the manufacturer or your buddy. That's because your tire's different. So that's what you need to understand, and that's the most basic of the basic. The second thing you need to understand is that every tire has what's called a shelf life, which means regardless of how you use it, how you drive on it, how you take care of it, wash it, clean it, dress it, does not matter to a degree. So I don't overthink it. So you can verify this, which I have done myself. I verified it with a couple of tire distributors in my area, and I have learned from firsthand experience. Now what you're looking at here is the tire and wheel of my Denali. This is a 22-inch wheel. The tire is made by General. I know that this tire responds well to most dressings. I can apply dressings and it will have a healthy shine. But I also know that firsthand that the tires I had on before this had over 50% of the tread life left when I realized that the sidewall was literally cracking. And by cracking, I don't mean superficial cracks. I mean deep cracks, as in, holy crap. I'm afraid to drive on that tire because I am in fear that the tire itself would explode because the cracks were so deep. And the only way I was able to see this was accidentally when I was down cleaning the side of the car itself, and I happened to notice at the bottom here where it bulges out. As it bulges out at the bottom, it revealed that crack, because up here, when I looked very closely, I could see the crack, but it was not exposed because the tire was not bulging, as it's not under pressure of the weight of the car like it is down here. So you need to understand that every tire has a shelf life. So you can do everything you want. You can chase your tail after the best tire dressing in the world. You can read the manufacturer's labels. They'll talk about how it has UV inhibitors and protectants and blah 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 blah. All these great embellished, over dramatized labels that would suggest that this is the best tire dressing you can possibly get, and it will make your tires last indefinitely. Well, that's just not true. And this is also why I try to go down the rabbit hole even further so that you have complete understanding, because often people don't even understand the nature of the beast and they oversimplify most everything. Really, society has it backwards. We oversimplify things that should not be, and we overcomplicate things that really can be much more easier. Like detailing. And the world of detailing can be much easier than the manufacturers or the car forums and detail forums would suggest. So I'm trying to introduce you and expose you to the real world of professional detailing, not the make-believe world that is promoted or suggested on the endless car and detail forums. This is the real world. So in the real world, if you were to ask a tire manufacturers, they would tell you that yes, a tire has a shelf life. So regardless of whether you've worn the tread down or not, eventually it's just going to degrade and have to be replaced. Ask any RV owner. Most RV tires or RVs themselves are only used occasionally. So an owner can buy a brand new set of tires, and 99% of the time that RV is parked somewhere in some storage lot. And after 5 years, he realizes that the sidewall is cracked. Even though he's covered it with a cover, he's maybe kept dressing on it, it has a shelf life. So you need to understand that the tire itself will be a huge determinant in how the dressing that you choose reacts or responds as you dress your tire. And know that no tire dressing in the world is going to save your tires indefinitely. Something else you need to understand is the reason that I, as a rule, choose what's called water-based tire dressings. Now the problem is, and this is the very same problem that happens with car leather interiors, is that we become so fixated on protecting, conditioning, dressing the leather or the tires because we have been led to believe that by just doing that simple act, that it will be the magic answer that will take away all other concerns of general maintenance and cleaning that are required, whether we're talking about your car leather or your car tires. Now, in the case of car tires or truck tires, whatever, what happens is that people just become lazy. As we get lazy, what we want to do is we want to bypass, do these workarounds, avoid work. So we want to avoid cleaning the sidewall each time before we reapply a new layer of dressing. Therein lies the problem, because most dressings will allow dirt and dust to stick to them better than just a bare, clean sidewall. Because most dressings, or many of them, have silicones or solvents in them that make them tacky and kind of sticky, and they remain somewhat wet to the touch. The instant you drive down the road and you get dust and dirt on it, it sticks to it. Most people will fail to clean that off each and every time properly before they apply a new layer of tire dressing. All these little nuances and variables of the sidewall itself is where dirt and dust can stick and become more problematic in cleaning. And once again, there's the problem, is you will not thoroughly clean it each time before you reapply your choice in dressing. Over time, what happens is you get this buildup. It's a buildup of old dressing and dirt. and it creates a brown, grungy, greasy layer that is, it might as well be axle grease. Imagine the worst, thickest grease of your car. That's what it becomes. It is very difficult to remove. It is a huge problem with RVs. That's where I see it the worst. So depending on how you take care of your car, or if you're a detailer, depending on how the customer has chosen to take care of their car, because often what happens is they run it through the car wash week after week after week, and they get the upgraded wash package that includes some dressing on the tires and maybe some of the trim. So Johnny Worker Bee at the car wash doesn't clean the sidewall each and every time as thoroughly as needed before he slops over an excessive amount of tire dressing that, as you drive away, now slings all over your car. Welcome to the world of you get what you pay for. What do you expect? You're paying $8, $10, $12, $15 for a car wash. They don't have time to clean it and meticulously detail it properly before they reapply that dressing. So if you're a detailer and you roll in on that type of tire, you could have this huge buildup of old dressing and dirt that has created that brown, grungy layer. Now, if you go to my website and you look at this page, there will be a link underneath this video in the Show More box. On that link, I have pictures and I show you exactly what I'm talking about that brownish layer. Now, often people say that that brownish layer is a result of oxidation. You know what? It really doesn't matter, because that brown layer should not be there, and it can be cleaned off and should be cleaned off before you actually dress the tire. Before we go any further, and before I show you the application process, so I did some research on the bottle, and this is always a starting point. Always read the manufacturer's directions. I don't know about you, but I love to not read the manufacturer's directions, where it's like, hey, I've got a clue. I've worked in the three-dimensional world my whole life. I know what's going on. What do I got to waste time reading directions? Because that's just a waste of time. Well, trust me, you'd be surprised at the simple, they are critical pieces of information that you can learn by simply reading the basic directions. After testing this for the past few months, I've come to the conclusion that this is now my go-to dressing for tires. I have determined that it is better for me in my world as a mobile detailer and how I want tires to look and how I want the product to react and respond. I've determined that this is a better product, but only you can decide that. Hopefully, this review will help you in determining what is best for you in your world. So the label does not indicate anywhere on it that it's a water-based dressing. I had to go to Chemical Guy's actual website, and then I even had to search amongst that website to figure out if it was a true water-based dressing, which in fact it is. What's kind of misleading about that is if you read the directions or if you read the labeling, and this is where the insidious world of marketing and advertising come in, is that they misrepresent with misinformation, and they lead you down a path that is really designed to just essentially separate you from your money. Extreme VRP Shine and Sealant Dressing Vinyl Rubber and Tire Protectant restores, conditions, and protects dull surfaces, bringing them to life and enhancing them. A multi-surface shield of your vehicle's interior. Dual action dressing leaves surfaces 100% dry to the touch and shining better than new while protecting the surface against dirt and dust. Formulated using industry-leading sealants, aids in protecting seats, steering wheels, door panels, dashboards against the elements. So nowhere does it even suggest that it's a tire dressing, but it is and can be used as a tire dressing. Also, what it suggests, or doesn't suggest, it actually states on the website that it is waterproof. Now that comes to kind of a contradiction. If this is a water-based dressing, which by the way means that you can dilute it with water if it's too thick. This is a very thick dressing. So I have now chosen to get this bottle that has a self-cleaning lid to it, which is usually designed for polishes, and I've labeled it as my VRP dressing. And I'm going to now use it when I apply it out of this bottle, which will make it easier to dispense from. So water-based, that's kind of a contradiction. If this is water-based and it says, based on where you're looking at the description, whether it's online at Chemical Guys or Auto Geek or Amazon, it will say that it's waterproof. So how can that be? Well, what I like to think about is this example. Think of latex paint. Now, back in the day, if you were old enough or are old enough, like myself, we used to have nothing but what is called oil-based paints. Oil-based paints were superior in durability. Unfortunately, they had chemicals in them that are not very friendly to humans or other living organisms and the environment. So regulation came in, and we have now had to switch from oil-based and solvent-based to what is called VOC compliant, volatile organic compounds, which are harmful to humans and the environment. So we have many and almost endless products that are now formulated with what's called water-based formulations. Waxes, sealants, polishes, dressings in this case. This is a water-based dressing, and it will dry to the touch, just like latex paint. If you were to take some latex paint and you got it on your hands, you could wash it away with water because it's a water-based paint. But once that latex paint dries, like on your wall of your house, inside, outside, on your hand, whatever, you can get water on it and it doesn't wash away. Why is that? Well, because it has been allowed to cure, and those chemicals have bonded, and now it creates like a barrier. So the same thing is true with this, is that once it dries, it at a level creates a barrier that is dry to the touch. So I just wanted to clarify that because that's kind of a contradiction as far as my mind goes when I see water-based and then waterproof. Okay, but waterproof is different than chemical proof. Okay, chemical proof is different. So I can use chemicals, cleaners that are typically alkaline based in order to clean this off each time, which is what I want to do before I apply a layer of my Chemical Guys VRP dressing. Which brings us to our next subject, preparing the tire before you apply some dressing to it. Regardless of the situation in which you find yourself, brand new tire, used tire, customer's tire, your tire, it will need to be clean first regardless. As a rule, in my world of professional detailing, my go-to product for degreasing the sidewalls of tires is my Meguiar's Super Degreaser, diluted down 4:1. Once again, that means for every 1 part of concentrate, I add 4 equal parts of water. So this is diluted 4:1. I simply spray it on the sidewall. I pick my chosen brush. In this case, you can see that it gets very dirty because it's reserved for sidewalls of tires only. And I scrub. Now, normally what I would do is I would be working with water. And I know endless people have asked how I detail a car when I don't have a water tank and so forth. Whole different video. The point of this is there's always workarounds. Any situation, any problem that you are dealing with, there's always going to be a way to work around that problem and come up with a solution. In this case, I'm just trying to demonstrate the necessity for you to clean your sidewall before you apply the tire dressing. So You can use a paper towel. You can use a microfiber. It doesn't matter. You need to get this clean. Whether you have some running water, you can hose it off. Do you need to worry about rinsing this super degreaser off? No, you do not. Something else that's very effective, if you have a highly excessive amount of that buildup, you can use rubbing alcohol. I get this at Costco. It comes in different percentages. Do not overthink that. Whether it's 70%, 82%, 90%, does not matter. Not in this situation. So rubbing alcohol, I can put it on a cloth and I can literally go around and scrub this clean and detail out all those little letters and numbers and sidewall, especially if you live in part of the country that people are driving down dirt roads. So first you need to clean it and make sure it is truly clean. Then you can apply the dressing. Since we're talking about degreasers and cleaning the sidewall of your tire, the best degreaser that I have found, which is also the best adhesive remover, is a true adhesive remover, is the Rapid Remover. It will outperform the rubbing alcohol, the super degreaser. If you are serious about detailing as a professional, this is one of the very few products that to me is an absolute must-have. But I just want to let you know that this is a superior way to degrease, because that buildup is really a thick, greasy mess if it is in fact old tire dressing, and you've come across that where you could literally write your name in it because it's so thick, greasy, and gooey. So the Rapid Remover is also one way. You can find the link underneath underneath this video, and I've got a whole page dedicated to the Rapid Remover and the endless uses of it. Once we have cleaned the sidewall, then we get to apply the dressing. The moment we've all been waiting for. The moment that you've probably been saying inside your head, which is, Darren, get to the point. As I stated, you can get this particular product in different sizes. From a small size to a bigger size. I chose the gallon because I plan on going through a lot of it in my testing. So applicators come in endless forms. Almost anything goes. And I like sponges, or these types of sponges, because they can be wet. You can wring them out so that they're just damp, and then you can apply your dressing and apply it to the sidewall. If this was my tire dressing, I would spray directly into the applicator and then I would apply it onto the sidewall. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply this to the applicator. So you will be able to find these applicators, a few versions on my website also. It's cool because it's got this sharp edge, which is great for getting right in between the wheel and the sidewall. So in this case, we'll see how thick this is, which is pretty thick. That's what I consider a thick dressing. And then it's as simple as wiping it on the sidewall. And this is where you can meticulously and patiently get the entire sidewall without getting it on your wheel. As a rule, I know that any beginner and society at large is operating under the philosophy that more is always better. More of anything. More polish, more wax, more dressing is always better. As a rule, that is not the case. You need to abandon that idea. So repeat applications are better than one thick, sloppy application. Because after training endless guys in the business, I know that they get sloppy. And as they rub this back and forth, it will collect naturally excess amounts of dressing in the grooves of the sidewall. So what happens is, even though this will dry to the touch, that's too much to dry. And as the customer drives away, it's going to sling stuff everywhere. So as you apply this, you need to be cautious of that. and you will find that winning balance of too much versus not enough. So you can apply it. You can mop up the excess with a separate cloth. If it's too shiny, you can knock it down with a separate cloth. You do repeat applications. I've also noticed that as a rule, regardless of the type of dressing I'm using, that if I'm using it direct sunlight, it actually seems to perform better. I do not know why this is the case, but it performs better. That's just been my personal experience, or I should say professional experience. Ideally, you will apply this at least 5 to 10 minutes before Johnny customer has to drive away in their car, so it does have time to dry to the touch. Because right now, it's still a little gooey.